Now, drug repositioning or repurposing is by no means new. In fact, it's almost mainstream now. We all know the story behind sildenafil, otherwise known as Viagra. We probably know about thalidomide as well. But what is new about drug repositioning, and how is the best way to apply it to rare diseases where such serendipitous, accidental findings are probably less likely because of the various reasons, including the very small patient population. So some numbers around drug repositioning. These won't be new to you. You've seen some of these numbers already today. 2,000, 1,500, 7,000, and 30. What do these numbers mean? Thomson Reuters estimated a few years ago, 2012, that there are approximately 2,000 failed drugs sitting on the shelves of pharma companies that have been shown to have some potential to be exploited in a new indication, different from the indication they were initially developed for. Drug targets, i.e. genes and proteins that can be targeted by a drug, need to be druggable and disease-modifying. There are many that are druggable, many that are disease-modifying. And a surprising number, at least 1,500 that are both. And these are important for a repositioning exercise. We heard from Rick earlier that NIH suggests that there are at least 7,000 orphan indications, otherwise known as rare diseases, just now. And on top of that, drugs that seek approval for use in the clinic are a lot more likely to be approved. 30% approval rate, as opposed to between 8 and 10%, depending what you read, for brand new compounds. So, moving beyond the accidental findings, like with Viagra, and moving towards a more specific approach for going ahead and finding a new use for an existing drug or whatever. As Rick suggested, we need to know a lot of scientific intelligence regarding the disease, the drug compound, and the drug target, and specifically all the information linking the two. So linking diseases with targets, we need to know about the biomarkers, we need to know what animal models are available that describe that interaction. Regarding the compound itself, we need to know if it's safe, if it actually works and how it works, and whether there are any side effects. And we need to know how the compound actually acts on the target. What are the pathways, the mechanisms, and what assays are there in cells or in mouse models or whatever that show us these things. And crucially, are there any clinical trials? Now, patient groups who are working in a particular rare disease will be able to write the book about clinical trials about that particular rare disease. That's something that you know all about. But patient groups may not necessarily know about trials that have been previously handled or passed or failed or run for other targets or other compounds in other diseases. But it's still an important piece of the puzzle. Intellectual property. Who actually owns the IP behind these compounds? Rick mentioned that the ideal case for repositioning is where the drug currently is not owned by anyone because it's available generically, but this won't always be the case. So where do you go for all this information? You won't typically find a one-stop shop to get all of this information in one place. You need to read scientific literature, read the patent literature coming out from 90+ different patenting authorities across the world. There are at least 1,000 such conferences going on every year that include useful information. Corporate sources, so actual SMEs and pharma companies introducing information on their websites, their annual reports, their press releases, and of course a lot of information coming in from government regulators and non-government organizations as well, such as the World Health Organization. Having got this material and printed it out and put it on your desk, what do you do with it next? It's no use at all until it's been well integrated, and that takes a lot of expertise. Being able to perform the pathway analysis, being able to integrate the information about biomarkers and about specific features of the disease and how those features interact with other drugs and proteins is also vital, and it's not easy. So, what is Clarivate Analytics' take on this? Based on disease, we've performed projects related to specific portions of the patient population and new approaches. Based on the compound, starting with structural similarities to identify new indications, and based on pathway analysis around the targets themselves, it's possible to identify new therapeutic uses. So just very quickly, in the last 30 seconds or so, what we've done in the past for a pharma company, it's not for a rare disease, this is for Parkinson's, but the approach is may be similar. We've combined gene expression data, which is essentially biological data from, I think in this case it was from patients, but it could work equally well with animal models. Combined that data with knowledge of the pathways, biomarkers, drug pipelines, and targets, and we found 23 novel candidates. By novel, I don't mean brand new drugs, I mean those that have been at least in phase 2, so they've been shown to be safe in humans, but have not previously been studied in Parkinson's. And that company then took those 23, and as of now, 4 of those are continuing to be, not developed, but certainly investigated by that particular company for further study. And I'm around for the rest of the afternoon and happy to talk about our approaches, not only with drug repositioning, but in general with regard to clinical trials or preclinical data or anything related to basic biology or translational research.